thing in honor of Major League Baseball and the Players Union, their meeting today only lasting 7 minutes. We're going to record a 7-minute podcast. Cool.
Yeah,
with
it makes
you?
sense. Why? Because why even talk? Why even get into anything if it's just 7 minutes? Why don't we just hang out? God, I hated that.
I kind of want to set a timer. Like, here, I'm going to start a stopwatch right now, and I'm going to let the people know when we get to 7 minutes to tell you how long that conversation between Major League Baseball and the union was before they go on lockout.
Is it even fair to call it a conversation?
I don't think so. Like,
No conversations that last 10 minutes? Isn't that the criteria? Maybe there's no criteria.
Anything under 15 minutes could have been an email.
Could have been an email. That's the big thing about Zoom stuff. It's like, couldn't this meeting just have been an email? Couldn't that have just been an email? You probably could have written out in 7 minutes.
Hey, Brian Kelly's departure thing. Did you watch the video of Brian Kelly talking to Notre Dame earlier today?
I have been so out of the college football sphere. I'm even getting NFL stuff for tomorrow's football. I'm like, how can we even talk about the NFL right now when baseball is so insane?
Yeah, I hear you. Listen, I did budget about 3 minutes worth of my time this morning to watch Brian Kelly's farewell address to all the guys he recruited to play at Notre Dame because it was only 3 minutes. And I needed to know what he said in 3 minutes to like his team that he just fully abandoned. I'm going to start the timer and we're going to dive into free agent frenzy part bajillion and also the very, very, very beginnings of the lockout. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. I'm starting the timer for 7 minutes.
Fair.
Now, okay, let's start by just talking about the big thing that broke right before we hit record on this. Marcus Stroman's going to the Cubs. Does that make any sense to you, Peter?
Marcus Stroman to the Cubs doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And I'll tell you why. So if I take you back to the trade deadline, when they gave up Javier Baez, when they gave up Chris Bryant, when they gave up Anthony Rizzo, the players that returned in that deal, we heard, and that they were similar to a Kevin Alcantara, Pete Crow Armstrong. These are all young 18-year-olds. So any normal fan would come away from that thinking, all right, it's rebuild time. And that's okay if it's rebuild time. How did they get to the World Series? They rebuilt it through their system. So that's why I thought, okay, the Cubs aren't going to sign any big names. I know Jed Hoyer, their GM, said that they might be involved. But then they go ahead and sign Marcus Stroman. We don't know how much money yet. But I'm confused. I don't understand why they would make this deal. Does it make them better? Absolutely. Did they already get Wade Miley? Maybe they're starting to think, you know what? The Rafael Ortegas of the world, the Schwindells, the Wisdoms, maybe this is a good enough team to compete in the NL Central. Because there's not that many good teams in the NL Central, especially with the Cardinals losing out on Stroman now. What are the Cardinals going to do? So I'm trying to talk it out because I simply just don't get it.
I mean, listen, I think the Cardinals control their own destiny in this division. The Brewers pitching staff is exceptional, but they haven't made any moves on offense. So it's a great pitching staff and one of the worst offenses in baseball. The Cardinals are the most well-rounded.
No, I was only going to say about the Brewers too, about that offense. It wasn't good, and then they lost Avisel Garcia. They lost Eduardo Escobar too. Yeah. So it was already not that good, and it's only getting worse.
Yeah, and they don't have a farm.
They don't have a farm at all. It's one of the worst farm systems in baseball.
So, like, the Cardinals are well-rounded, but they're getting older. Yachty and Wainwright coming back to play an important piece. I mean, they are old. They're full-blown old, and they were old in 2021. They performed in 2021, but they're old now. The Reds just lost one of their two big boppers in Castellanos, or so we think. Castellanos apparently okay waiting until after the lockout's done. Castellanos, Correa, Chris Bryant seem like the three that are pretty content waiting until this lockout subsides. You get to go again and ramping up for spring training. That's when those three might make a decision here. But the Reds don't have Castellanos. The Pirates still suck, although they're getting somewhat exciting. I mean, the Cubs, like, that offense was bad. It didn't suck. And
it didn't suck.
Right? Like, I think they're banking on a bad offense becoming somewhat okay. And then say Stroman has a good year. Say Kyle Hendricks has a good year. Say Adbert Alzolay turns a corner. Say Braylon Marquez is good. Like, there
Wade Miley,
are
yeah,
some things that could come about for the Cubs.
I guess. I mean, I'm watching you, and if you guys are watching on YouTube, you can see Jack's face right now. But we're both kind of like, we don't believe what we're saying, though,
No,
in a
listen,
way.
well, status report here. We just hit the halfway mark of this meeting between Major League Baseball and the Players Union. So we're at 3.5 minutes.
We
I'm
haven't even
saying
finished
all
one deal.
that, like everything needs to work out perfectly according to plan for the Cubs to be in a winning window while Stroman is there. I mean, they definitely didn't sign him for 8 years. They probably signed him for 4 or 5, maybe year 4, year 5 of that contract when Stroman is older, like 35 years old, 36 years old. That's when they start their winning window. I'm saying all these things with, like 80% of my being knowing that this was weird and like, I think ill-advised.
The thing is, by itself, the Stroman deal is ill-advised. But maybe the Cubs have been connected to Chris Bryant. Maybe they do actually go get Chris Bryant. Maybe they do make some more moves. Arm tweeted it out. This deal doesn't make sense unless the Cubs add like 6 more guys. You know what? Maybe they are. Maybe they see something that we don't necessarily see, but I can't see it. So I'm just sitting here confused.
You know what? This is so unique because at this stage of free agency, everybody's still supposed to be available. And like nobody's available anymore. It's Correa, it's Bryant, it's Castellanos, but Seager's already off the board. Semion's already off the board. Baez is already off the board. Chris Taylor sounds like he's off the board of the Dodgers. We got to talk about that one right now too. But I mean, there are a lot of people that are off because I think there was some serious almost like hesitancy of what's to come. There was almost this sense of paranoia from players, from agents, maybe from teams that things are going to change and structure is going to get out of whack. And they just wanted to do something that they were familiar with. And that was sign under the current CBA.
And another player that that you didn't mention that's not off the board yet is a guy like Freddie Freeman.
Yeah.
And that's one of the most interesting conversations because I feel like, and just to even take it off the field for a second, if you're Freddie Freeman, the person, doesn't it kind of feel like your girlfriend of 10 years that you got married to is now talking to other guys like a Matt Olson? How do you feel if you're Freddie Freeman? I'm thinking if I'm Freddie Freeman and I just won a championship with the Braves, I've given them every single ounce of my soul. I'm basically the new Chipper Jones for them. And they're thinking, oh, we're actually having discussions with Matt Olson. We're dragging our feet for 6 years, 180, which is totally fair for a guy like Freddie Freeman.
Yeah.
It's the girlfriend thing where I'm thinking to myself, I feel like I'm getting cheated on. You know what? Los Angeles Dodgers, maybe I will take your call. New York Yankees, maybe I will take your call. Because if that's the team that's not going to be behind me from the get-go, and maybe with the lockout, maybe they are just waiting. But I don't understand because 6 for 180 is so reasonable. I would understand if Freddie was coming out and be like, yeah, I deserve 10 for 300. Yeah. Then it could be like, all right, well, we got to work some things out. But a totally fair deal like that, I don't understand why they're dragging their feet. I've just in this day, Jack, like Monday and Tuesday, I felt confident. I'm like, I understand why these guys are making their deals. The Rangers, not so much. But still, I'm glad that they were doing it. Today, I just felt confused.
I think a lot of people felt like they had to press. Like I think the Cubs just pressed to go get a notable starting pitcher. That's the vibe that I just got. And in the Freddie Freeman thing, I do like your analogy there to the girlfriend. It feels like going out to dinner with your work friend that turns out to be a 6'3" super hot guy. And it's like, shit, I can't compete with that. So it better just be dinner with a work friend. But then when your girlfriend goes to dinner with him 4 or 5 times, it's like, oh, this became a Thursday ritual. Maybe you say, you know what? Like maybe I should take Sheila to go get sushi after.
Yes.
Right.
Doesn't it feel like he's getting cheated on?
Yeah. But like, how do you interpret cheating? You know what I mean? Like, it's just business. It's just work.
But I feel like there's certain players within baseball where it's not like that.
Yeah.
Like it goes beyond business.
But here's the thing.
Maybe it doesn't. Maybe for none of them, it never is.
But what's up with Kershaw right now? You know what I mean? Like,
Kershaw's in a different discussion though, because it feels like Kershaw might want to go back to the Texas Rangers because he lives there. I don't know if that's not the same thing to me, because Kershaw's most likely looking for a 1, maybe a 2-year deal at this point. Freddie is still the best first baseman in baseball. Kershaw's not the best pitcher in baseball anymore. If this was prime Kershaw, like 29-year-old Kershaw or something, I'd feel a different way. But we saw Kershaw's body kind of break down a little bit. We've seen his stuff deteriorate a little bit. I mean, he's still Clayton Kershaw, and he's still one of the premier pitchers in baseball. But still.
by the way, we just ran 2 minutes long on the meeting between Major League Baseball and the union. So that shows you how little they care about this continuing. They were ready to go for a lockout. I mean, everybody knew that it was already coming. And the duration of that meeting being 7 minutes earlier today between Major League Baseball and the Players Union is asinine.
Why meet?
Why meet?
Why meet?
Just start the lockout earlier.
If you're not actually going to talk, why talk? Like, don't. I feel like they almost just did that for public perception, just to like, oh, we have to go meet, even though both sides know we're not getting a deal done today.
Yeah, to tie it back into a romantic analogy here, it's like dragging a +1 to a wedding where they just mope around and say like, damn, I wish I was back in Philly for this Eagles game tomorrow, but I'm going to be stuck here in Delaware at this bullshit wedding. It's like, you know what? If you're going to be this toxic, go wait in the car. Like, drive your ass.
Go wait in the car.
Like, just go wait in the car. Like, don't do this to us. Don't give us this gleaming sense of hope that you can come to this resolution at the last hour and not even try to do it. It would be one thing if they met for like 6 hours and they said, you know what, like, screw it, we're going into lockout mode. We just couldn't come to a deal. I appreciate that because that shows a teensy bit of effort. An hour would have showed me a teensy bit of effort, and you had people fly in for this meeting, and it was 7 minutes long. It doesn't mean anything. I'm off my soapbox with that. Let's talk about Chris Taylor going to the Dodgers, because this was really fun, and this was the most important move the Dodgers needed to make to stay the World Series frontrunner going into next year.
Isn't Chris Taylor like that Swiss Army knife that you feel like every team, if you're going to win a title, you need a guy like that, a guy you can plug and play? That's what Chris Bryant kind of feels like now. I mean, Chris Bryant he's not labeled like a utility guy, but also Arm and I were talking about it yesterday. I feel like the term utility guy has been taken a weird way, like it's some negative when it should be some positive. For example, Joey Wendell going to the Marlins. You see on Marlins Twitter, he's just a utility man. Would you prefer if he was just a second baseman? I don't understand why utility guy is being downgraded, especially with a guy like Chris Taylor, who's hit all the way through and is so versatile. I love the deal with the Dodgers. I did think that there was a strong possibility that he was going with the Mariners, because I don't think the Mariners are done. But now with the Cubs now involved, I kind of think Chris Bryant might go back to Chicago. But I'm kind of getting off track here.
I don't see that happening. I think Chris Bryant in Seattle makes a ton of sense. Like,
did
Chris
you see
Bryant
Marcus Stroman
perfectly
happening?
Fits that market.
Did you see Marcus Stroman happening?
No.
We're not like. It was funny during the TikTok live. I mean, your guy, Matt Spiegel, your uncle, he broke the news.
Yeah.
And I was on live because I've been saying Marcus Stroman in the Cardinals nonstop. Marcus Stroman induces a lot of contact. He's not a huge strikeout guy. You put him behind that defense, seemed like the perfect fit to me. But then he goes to their rival.
It's weird. My thought here on Marcus Stroman Chris Taylor. My thought here on Chris Taylor is there's a really simple fix to dealing with Chris Taylor and making sure that you don't run into this scenario again where he feels like he needs to jump ship and go be a marquee guy.
Yeah.
Make him your starting second baseman. Make Trey Turner your shortstop. And when you feel like you need to get luck some at bats, put Chris Taylor in the outfield. It's very, very simple. Chris Taylor should be an everyday player for you. You should be paying him like an everyday player.
Absolutely.
And he should not be this fit where he's needed thing. He should be Chris Taylor. I can put you anywhere and you're going to succeed. you're gonna be our second baseman, but if we need you to go hop in a corner outfield spot, you're gonna do it for one game, and then you're right back to a spot that you can call home. I want to see Chris Taylor have a home with these Dodgers because he was always, oh, by the way, they have Chris Taylor. That's not what he should be paid like. He's a lot better than an oh, by the way player.
I agree. And that's why I think he was so coveted. That's why we heard so many teams interested in his services, because he feels like a winning piece above all else. Feels like a winning piece. Like a guy like that, like I said, should be on a World Series roster. I got to turn off this light. It's so bright in my room. But I also want to move on to another deal. I mean, we haven't even talked about this. Rasiel Iglesias signed a 4-year, $56 million deal with the Los Angeles Angels. And you know me, when I see long-term reliever contracts, I'm immediately terrified. Is Rasiel Iglesias a good reliever? Absolutely. But, we'll see how that contract unfolds. I don't know. What did you think about the Rasiel Iglesias to the Angels deal?
I think that if the Angels wanted to retain him, they needed to pay a lot of money. And I think they did. And they probably gave him a year more than anybody else was willing to give him. The thing about bullpen arms is, with Rasiel Iglesias, obviously you just paid him to be your closer. Mm-hmm. But if you're not a closer, like look at Kendall Graveman, right? He is a reliever. He's not necessarily a closer. He can throw an eighth inning and he can be the best in baseball at throwing an eighth inning. They want to go to winners. They want to go where their eighth inning matters. They don't need to go to a 500 team. With closers, you go where the opportunity to close is. Mark Malanson just signed a 2-year deal with the Diamondbacks. Jesus.
It was kind of funny about that. I was talking with Aram, and he was like, Mark Malanson is so smart because Mark Malanson is going to have a good first half, then get traded to a contender, probably from the Diamondbacks. Because what do the Diamondbacks need to control? Like, they need to keep the ninth inning clean when it's 9-4 and they're losing, and they just don't want to lose by 6, but they want to lose by 5. Is that their goal? I think almost they're using him as a trade piece to go get a prospect during the middle of the year.
They just traded, or they just signed for financial value, right? They just signed, look at Mark Malanson. We just spent $17 million. How much do we value 2 blue chip prospects? $17 million. Yeah,
I think that's exactly what happened. It's a funny deal because why would a Mark Malanson go there, and why would the Diamondbacks do that? I almost feel like they're in cahoots with each other. They're like, we're going to send you somewhere sick, but we're going to get that value out of you, but we're going to pay you too. And he's probably thinking to himself, you know what? No one else is offering me a 2-year deal. It kind of makes sense. And
I get to live in Scottsdale for 6 months.
Not too bad. Not too bad of a deal.
Not too bad of a deal. Let's go. Scottsdale is awesome. Now Malanson, he's a closer, right? He's going to be the closer for the Diamondbacks, and a team that is winning that needs a closer is going to go get Mark Malanson. Rasiel Iglesias is a closer. Mm-hmm. So he turned out to be one of the best closers in baseball this past year. He needed big money to go to a team that wasn't a winner right away. And the Angels, yes, they look like a winner each year. They never turn out to be a winner each year, but you always go in and hope, maybe this is the year, right? Like, okay, we got Syndergaard now and a healthy Trout and Ohtani. We know what he can do. And, maybe they're not done. Maybe they go get Seiya Suzuki. It's just this great opportunity for Rasiel Iglesias to get his bag, be somewhere familiar, and also have that closer role. And they pay him like their closer.
And that's the thing. It's not that I don't like the Rasiel Iglesias deal for next year, because if you think about it, for next year, the Angels are going to get back like 14 F-WAR from Trout and Rendon if they provide the exact kind of things that they've been doing their entire careers. Rendon has been dealing with injuries. Obviously, Trout has had the injury bug, but if they're healthy, you're adding some of the best free agents on the market. Mike Trout is still the best player in baseball, and Anthony Rendon is still one of the best. My recording just stopped on my Zoom in the middle of our podcast. My disk is now full.
That's okay. I got it.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But we're back to the podcast now. I like the Rasiel Iglesias move for next year, and that's what I think the Angels are doing right now. They're paying the extra amount of money to compete for next year. And if you look at the AL West, if we're previewing the AL West, if the Mariners don't add another star like a Chris Bryant, are we projecting them to win the division? Now the Houston Astros, they lose Carlos Correa potentially. Are we still projecting them to win the division? You know, the A's might trade Matt Olson. This division is kind of wide open. So I think the Angels, they could realistically win the division with this team as constructed right now. Will they? Because their starting pitching isn't that strong. They could use another guy. But, I mean, this is a real team.
With Iglesias at the back end, with Syndergaard as the frontline guy, with a full year of Detmers, with Sandoval, with who else do they have?
Patrick
One of the Suarez is Jose
good.
Suarez.
Yeah. And Sandoval's a good pitcher.
He is. Like, do you know, if you go into next year and the Astros don't sign anybody of note, are you looking at the Angels with a healthy Rendon, healthy Trout, you know, Ohtani firing on all cylinders, a full year of Brandon Marsh, full year of Joe Adell? If you want, you can see Jordan Adams coming up. Are they your division winners?
If you look on paper right now, the Angels have one of the best rosters in the AL West. Does that result in wins? That's what we have to find out. But if we're looking straight at rosters, hard not to put them near the top.
Yeah, I mean, I think Seattle's my pick right now, but also Seattle totally outperformed expectations in 2021. So how do you value them?
But also, like a guy like Jared Kelenic had a really rough season. Does he bounce back, and is he even better? Do other guys take step backs? Like a JP Crawford, is he still going to be the same guy? Is Ty France still going to be the same guy? I think Ty France will, but we just don't know.
But you know what? With that regression, you also have Kyle Lewis back healthy. It's
exactly.
It's like all these
other people regressing. Remember, they're going to lose out on Yusei Kikuchi, but then they sign Robbie Ray. It's like, I don't know. They're losing, adding. And that's why I was kind of bummed they didn't get Chris Taylor, even though I think Chris Taylor fits. That's why I think they'll be in on Chris Bryant. But then again, if they don't get Chris Bryant, they don't get Nick Castellanos. And also we're seeing Nick Castellanos, possibly a Padre.
Yeah.
That's the rumor mill starting.
Yeah. Peter, I've just got a lot of problems with how the Padres operate. Like, why Nick Castellanos?
Well, Will Myers is not the answer. Outside, I mean, Tommy Pham, you know, Trent Grisham is really their only outfielder at this point that you know is going to be a mainstay. So it makes some sense. It just depends on the money, what he's going to ask for. But I mean, Nick Castellanos rakes, but he's also coming from Great American Ballpark where it's very easy to hit. So I'm curious, he goes over to Petco, which is a notorious pitcher's park. How well does he hit there? Does that even matter that much? Possibly not, but it might.
I don't know. It's hard. It's really hard. You've got a couple of firecrackers on that team with Tatis and Machado and Castellanos, if that's the case. I mean,
it would be a fun team.
Another thing that just throws me all sorts of different ways about the Padres is they just traded for Jorge Alfaro. Like, how does he fit in here? You know what I mean? There are all these deals that, you know, you look at one and you say, wow, Nick Castellanos, let's go. And then you see Jorge Alfaro for player to be named later or cash. And I'm like, this hurts my brain a little bit. It doesn't make any sense what they do. They just do things.
Also, another point of note, James Paxton signed with the Red Sox for 1 year, $10 million. Kind of an interesting deal, because if you can get the same James Paxton that was kind of dominant when he pitched in Fenway, was it against the Red Sox? Of course, but he has a knack for pitching in Fenway too. And this is a guy who's been dominant when healthy. When unhealthy, he's dealt with a back thing. He's dealt with multiple injuries. If they can, at 1 year, $10 million, I actually really like that deal for the Red Sox, because if he could come back and be 90, 80% of what prime James Paxton was, I mean, you got a very solid pitcher for $10 million.
You do, but you've got a lefty in the mid 90s, because he's not upper 90s anymore. I can promise you that. You've got a lefty in the mid 90s throwing to the Yankees all the time. It's a bunch of power righty bats.
But that's only one team in the equation.
Yeah, but like the Blue Jays, a bunch of power righty bats.
I mean, you're not wrong, but I mean, yeah, you're not wrong, but they lost Eduardo Rodriguez. You know, I guess he's kind of maybe going to fill that role. I mean, I don't know if he's Erod is a better pitcher than James Paxton, of course, at this point.
Yeah.
But I think they're kind of looking for him, I guess, to fill that role. I mean, you're not just going to go all right-handed pitchers because the couple teams in your division have crazy big right-handers.
They've got like this 2015 super rotation right now with Chris Sale, Michael Wacha, James Paxton. I mean, that's a three-headed monster from hell in 2015.
That's a good point.
That's crazy. They're all 30-something white guys.
Another deal I like. Alex Cobb to the Giants. 2 years, $20 million. Alex Cobb. You know, we see the Alex Woods of the world. We see the Desclafanis, the Cuetos. The Giants know how to turn guys like this around. I'm projecting an actual big year for Alex Cobb next year with the Giants because Alex Cobb was pretty good with the Angels this year. And doesn't it feel like the Giants are just going to retool him a little bit and make him kind of dominant?
Well, the Angels exemplify pitching idiocy, and the Giants are... it's Farhan magic. He just looks at these guys and says, you're going to get better. And Alex Cobb says, oh shit, Farhan said, okay, yeah, I guess I'm better now. Like, it's almost like this spell that he puts on.
I like it. I like the deal. Did you notice the prospect that went over in the deal for Joey Wendell, Cameron Meisner? Because I made a joke on Twitter. Guy going over to the Rays, probably going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, probably. Cameron Meisner he strikes out all the time. But he's an athletic guy who can hit some bombs. So he is a high value return there. Some people really liked him. Some people didn't really like him too much. Meisner is the guy that probably does one thing really well. That's how I heard the Rays operate, especially with pitching, right? They take the outcasts that do one thing exceptionally well, and they just tell them to rely on the one thing, and they just rip it. Like Nick Anderson. It's just this weirdo who was bouncing around, didn't really have a home, but then like over the top, he throws this fastball that looks like it's rising because it has no drop. And the spin is crazy good. They just said, you know what? Like, lean into that. Do it.
Yeah.
They did that with Oliver Drake. They did that with Chaz Rowe and the slider. They do it with hitters, too. They did it with Yandy Diaz. They said, you know what? Lean into this mega power that you have. Brandon Lau just hit 40 bombs. Like, they tell these guys to lean into the one thing they do really well. If Meisner is just be an athlete, we don't care how much you strike out, there's a chance that Meisner turns into that. But for Joey Wendell, it's fair because the Marlins, I think they've got this quicker window than most people realize.
I agree. I do think they have a quicker window. When you have a starting rotation like Sandy Alcantara, Trevor Rogers, Pablo Lopez, you got to capitalize on that. That's not every day that you get three young studs. And those are three young studs. You can put them in the playoffs. They can compete against anybody. All you got to do is add to the offense. Rasiel Garcia, 4 years, 53, kind of a lot of money. But if you're going for it this year, maybe that's not too bad of a deal.
Here's the way I put it earlier this week. Avi Garcia should be paid that much money. Was it a smart deal for the Marlins? I don't know. But Avi Garcia is worth $50 million because he is so supremely talented. And there is not a crazy big pool of people as talented as Avi Garcia in baseball. So if you've got this like, hey, you're looking at me like
come on.
No, I'm saying, listen, this guy hits the shit out of the ball. He also is in the 88th percentile in sprint speed. There are not many people that do both those things.
Okay.
Right?
All right. I see what you're saying there. I didn't know he's in the 88th percentile in sprint speed. We know he's an athlete. I didn't know that. That is actually a good. Yeah, that's good.
Right. If you've got, 8 years plus of service time, you've proved that you are a consistent big leaguer. Avi Garcia has okay years. He has good years. He doesn't have unbelievable MVP caliber years. He doesn't have dog shit years, right? Yes. He's a solid player that is really athletically gifted. He's worth $50 million at this stage of baseball. So the Marlins, I think that was like the right number to pay. I just don't think he made sense for the Miami Marlins.
It's also Miami has also come out and said that we don't necessarily need a center fielder because we have Rasiel Garcia. that's where I was thinking, wait, you kind of do need a center fielder, because I don't know if throughout that contract you can rely on Avisail Garcia being your center fielder. I understand the speed, but I mean, you're probably not relying on that as his position moving forward.
No, I think you should sign him as a left fielder. But hey, don't forget Victor Mesa. Sucks.
Sucks.
But I mean, you think about the Marlins staff too, and I feel like this should be Aram on the pod right now, but you think about the Marlins staff, and while you have Sandy, while you have Pablo Lopez, while you have Sixto Sanchez coming back, you've also got Edward Cabrera, you've also got Max Meyer, you've also got Jake Eater, all looking like they can get there this year. They're not going to be firing on all cylinders this year, but you've got just this gluttony of young pitching, and the window is going to creep up. As those guys get better, the window starts to open a little bit for you.
And also, did you see Kim Nang? She said we got one more move in the pipeline, one more big move, and she winked at the camera. I was
it's
like,
probably, you think it's Cedric Mullins?
oh, not until the second. I was thinking potentially Nick Castellanos. He's already a South Florida guy.
I don't know. I could see it being a trade.
I like it, but you'd have to give up a lot now for Cedric Mullins. You're trading for him at peak value.
Yeah,
He's
but
coming
Miami
off a
has a
30-30
lot.
season. It could be his best ever. It could be for what's to come. That's the interesting question.
Hey, let's talk Corey Knebel going to Philly real quick.
Yeah, good job, Philly. You look like a good reliever. And I like that. I like that they didn't overpay for relievers. And that's what I was saying about the Padres when they were signing Tim Hill, Emilio Pagan for these smaller term deals. That's how I think bullpens should be constructed. So I like that deal for Philly. Corey Knebel, saw him in the playoffs for the Dodgers. Good reliever. Good job, Philly. I like it.
How about Dylan Bundy to Minnesota?
Yeah, that's hilarious.
It is. He and Bailey Ober are the same person. One is 6'8" and skinny as hell. One is not 6'8" and not skinny as hell, but they are somehow the same person.
It was so funny on the live too. An Angels fan commented, like, have fun with Dylan Bundy, Twins fan. He's fucking horrible.
How about do you remember?
So you want to know something else that kind of ruined my day during the live?
Wait, hold on.
Looking up sticky substances, and just a bunch of porn came out.
Oh.
Didn't like it.
No, that's no good. Hey,
why is Twitter doing that? I'm obviously looking for baseball stuff.
Because Twitter sucks, dude.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm sure you watched because you're a diehard Yankee fan, but hot summer day this past year, Dylan Bundy at Yankee Stadium, just blue chunks behind the mound. That's my Dylan Bundy just engraved memory in the back of my mind. It's just when someone says Dylan Bundy, I see the vomit spewing out of his mouth.
I just feel like, and this is no slight to Twins fans, and this is no slight to the Twins organization at all, but doesn't it feel like if Dylan Bundy had signed with the Rays or signed with the Astros or signed with the Giants or the Brewers, you'd be like, oh, maybe they see something. But then he signs with the Twins and you're like, all right, I don't know what they see, because I don't know. Sorry. I don't know how to say that while being nice, other than I don't think that the Twins know what they're doing in terms of starting pitching.
I don't think you have to be nice.
I want to be. They're all nice.
When was the last
Twins
time
fans have been very nice?
When was the last time the Twins actually looked like they knew what they were doing with starting pitching? Was it Johan Santana and Francisco Liriano?
Did they know what they were doing there, or were those just two great talents that happened to be on the Twins?
That's how I feel about the Twins with Barrios. I think Barrios was just really, really talented and outpitched what the Twins were trying to do.
I think I agree with you completely.
So maybe those guys were just super talented. This past week has been kind of crazy because this was the free agent frenzy that we had no idea was coming. And I don't know if we've ever seen a free agent frenzy as concentrated as this, at least in recent baseball memory. You know, trade deadlines, you see this type of thing going on, but this was on a whole nother level. And now baseball goes from firing at 150% to a full stop. And I mean, the water is going to be eerily tranquil next week.
And we've seen this too. I mean, now teams are kind of just stepping back and we're like, we're going to wait till after the CBA. And I even see Yankee fans on Twitter calling for Brian Cashman's head. a lot of these big market teams haven't really done anything yet. And I think either teams are fully in and saying we want to do everything before this deadline, or teams are fully out and say we need to wait on it. Because, for example, universal DH, that changes a lot of things. Because in the National League, that makes a guy like Nick Castellanos much more valuable, right? That you can then put him at DH. A lot of these individual guys. So I understand the waiting, but I also understand fans getting upset, not seeing their team do anything when other teams seem to be getting all the guys. And then maybe they're not even available. Like if you wanted to wait till after the CBA is agreed upon, maybe the guys just won't be left.
It's hard.
Hard.
This is something that we've never experienced before.
And what's great is we're going to talk again tomorrow and we'll break it all down again.
Yeah, I might take tomorrow off. We'll see. He's Peter. I'm Jack. Every link you need is in the episode description. Couple of good t-shirt deals still going here as we get into the holiday season here. What are you bumping right now? Mariah Carey, Michael Bublé, Ariana Grande. What do you got?
I mean, I don't listen to any of that stuff. I've never been a Christmas music guy. I'm not a Christmas movie guy, as you probably can understand, considering I'm not a movie guy at all. Christmas music, I'm not really one to get into the holidays as much as like
here's
in
what
that
Peter
sense.
Apple does. Here's what Peter does, guys. So Peter, on Christmas Eve, 9 p.m., everybody's in their PJs, sitting around the Yule log, letting the fire crack. And Peter says, hey, you guys mind if I pull up MLB.tv? I want to watch Phillies Brewers from July 14th. I mean, apparently that was a really good start from Nola, and I got to see if my mind is deceiving me on him.
I mean, what else would you expect from me? That's exactly what I'm doing. Because I'm too addicted to this stuff. Yeah. But use code HOTSTOVE for 15% off Just Baseball merch. You can find it in the link to our description. You can also find it on our Shopify store. You can find it on our Instagram at Just Baseball Fans. Go check out the new one at Just Baseball Fans. We also have at Just Baseball Show. Just Baseball Fans is keeping you up to date on every single transaction. And the Just Baseball Show Instagram, it's clips from TikTok. It's memes. We're keeping it light. We're keeping it fun. And that's what I got for you.
That's fair. I am going to start on Just Gridiron Fans, our football TikTok. Yes, you give out NFL picks and you kick ass with those.
I've been bad lately.
What?
I've been bad lately. I'm 0 for my last 4. We were 30-21 on the season. Now I'm 30-25. It's just not nearly a good record anymore.
Are we out on the Seahawks now?
I hate them. That was one of the worst football games I've ever watched in my entire life. I hate it. I hated it. It was punt after punt after punt after punt. People are making too many excuses for Russell Wilson. Is Russell Wilson an actual MVP quarterback anymore?
I don't know.
How many times is the O-line bad? I mean, he has plenty of weapons. DK's there. Tyler Lockett's there. I know Chris Carson is injured, but Alex Collins isn't that bad. Whatever. We can make a football podcast and we'll talk about that at another time.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say this weekend, starting on Friday, I'm going to start pumping out conference championship game previews. So we're going to start with the MAC because the MAC is nearest and dearest to my heart. NIU and Kent State. That's going to be a hell of a game.
That's going to be a hell of a game.
Crazy game. There are also games that a lot more people care about. So I'll pump out content on those too. But I mean, you got to keep your eyes peeled for this MAC championship game preview. Cool.
Thank you, everybody.